All right, everybody, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Fourth Line Minutes show. I am your host, Chris Maselli. Along with me is, you know him as Shaggy Von Doom. You also might know him as Kyle Sullivan. So we are coming to you weekly. This is going to be a kind of all-inclusive show, focus on the hockey elements because we are hockey men, but we also like some geeky culture, fun things like, Star Wars movies, Marvel movies, Disney stuff, you name it, and we will probably talk about that. But it'll be focused on the hockey stuff with some extra geekiness tossed in there. You had a better way of describing it than I am currently right now.
Yeah, this is a place for scrubs and squids and freaks and geeks.
Yeah. Which was a fantastic show, by the way. Freaks and Geeks. Did you ever watch it?
Absolutely.
Oh,
one season, that's
God.
all it needed.
Yeah. And so, but that show was like, the way that it ended, you were like, oh man, that sets up perfectly for a second season to see where she went, see how how she changed when she comes back. But at the same time, you're just like, well, that's poetic in and of itself.
You got the pseudo reunion in This Is the End movie.
That is true. Yeah. That is
they
very
hinted
true.
at it and it was painted on the wall.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, right, because all those guys were in that movie too. So but if you haven't seen Freaks and Geeks, definitely go watch that. What is that stream? Is that streaming on anything? Is it streaming on like Netflix or anything?
I know it was on Netflix for a while, but I don't know where it is now.
All right, well, look, it's probably somewhere. But so yeah, before we kind of dive into our first couple topics, figured we should let you guys and girls know who we are. Here, let me turn this. That's a little bit better. So yeah, I like I said, my name is Chris Maselli, and I am the host of a couple other podcasts out there right now. One is Locked On Avalanche, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I had to get that in. So the Locked On the Locked On Network is a sports network that hosts podcasts every day for every team across five, if you want to include college major sports. So I host the Colorado Avalanche show, and through that I have met many fine, interesting people, Kyle Sullivan being one of them. I think you were one of the first people to reach out to me wanting to, because I was doing a segment where I'd get fans on the show, and then you reached out to me, said you wanted to do it, and then like a friendship was forged, and you've come on the show well over a dozen times. And then I said to you, why don't we do, because we talk every day, mainly about Avalanche stuff and hockey stuff, but basically what this show is going to be.
Yeah.
It's basically our conversations
in our video DMs form. Live.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we should do. We save a lot of time to show our DMs. But yeah, so, and then I also am a co-host of another show called The Tardy TARDIS, which you are a big fan of. And that show is intended to do exactly what it's doing to people like you, because me and my host for that show, Mark Turcott, had never watched a second of Doctor Who in our lives. So we said, hey, let's start watching Doctor Who, and after every episode, record a podcast on it. And people love it because people who watch Doctor Who are hardcore. They call them Whovians. And they get a kick out of it because we have fun with it. And they get a kick out of it because we, right up front, we're like, we don't know what this show is about. We've never literally seen a second of it. So they know that we're serious about it. We're not like making fun of the show in any way, but we're throwing out just crazy scenarios, crazy possibilities. And some people are like, I've gotten many emails where they're like, yeah, that is kind of true. This one you're way off on. This one you're going down the right path. So people are loving it that are up to date with the 11 seasons that the show's been out so far. People are loving it that they're kind of revisiting the show's early seasons with us, literally episode by episode. And you never really watched it until you started listening to that show, right?
No, and it's one of those shows that, I mean, it's kind of like Star Trek in a way that, it's got a reputation and a huge fan base, and it's been on forever, and you're kind of scared about jumping in because you'll feel lost.
Yeah.
So when you listen to the Tardy TARDIS, it's almost like you're living vicariously through you guys. You're
Yeah.
like, you guys are jumping in completely blind,
Oh
and
man.
you guys are like the in between, and it's awesome.
And we dig deep for just every little like morsel and every minute like per episode. And I think by overthinking it, it makes the show awesome because
Yeah,
we're so far
it's
out of
just like
bounds.
what it's binging a show with guys who's never watched it before, and it's the conversation that you would have watching a show with somebody. You're like, let's
Right.
just dive into this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. So that's where you can catch me. And then on the Twitterverse, I do most of the stuff on the Avalanche show page, which is LOPN_Avalanche, or same thing on Instagram. If you want to find my personal accounts, you can do those through those accounts if you wanted to, but that's where you'd find me. What about you, sir? You are, as you can tell,
Oh yeah.
Avalanche stuff behind him. So, and like we're both Avalanche fans, but you know, I talk about the Avalanche on my Avalanche show. Am I going to talk about him on here? Probably, but this isn't going to be focused on the Colorado Avalanche. This is a NHL in its entirety kind of show, which will be fun to do.
Yeah.
But that does not mean you take your Avalanche stuff down for this show, because you have to represent. But what I love about you is you are an Avalanche fan living in the great state of
Alabama.
Gotta love that, man. Explain that.
And it's one of those that, I mean, long story short, like way back in the day, like the rock stars of Patrick Waugh and Joe Sakic and Forsberg, like that's back in the 90s. Like those were the guys on TV that you're like, these guys are cool.
Right.
And growing up, like you latch on to them, and I've always just kept up with them, and like they were my team. And I've always enjoyed hockey. I remember the old rabbit ear TVs trying to get the signal so I could watch Mike Modano in the Stanley Cup and stuff like that. And
right.
Hockey's always been like my sport. And around here, it's college football.
Yeah.
Like that's it around here. So I have to really like beat the drum to be like, yes, this is a viable sport. This is actually a cool sport, and you got to give it a shot.
Right.
So,
right. Like, and you've, like I have turned like Doctor Who on to unsuspecting people. You've turned hockey on to people within your, close vicinity, right?
Yeah, everybody I talk to, like in my work, like I'll go different places, and I usually talk about hockey or I'm wearing something affiliated with hockey, and people start like they're starting to warm up to hockey. And we have a tiny team out here, the SPHL, on the Southern Professional Hockey League. We have the Birmingham Bulls, and it's a great $20 ticket. I mean, you can't beat it, and it's just fun to do, and it's really growing around here compared to like growing up.
Right. Cool. And then to find you on the Twitterverse, like I introduced you as Shaggy Von Doom, and that's where they can find you.
I'm known. It's just the nickname I've had since I was a child, so like Shaggy's just stuck with me. But yeah, Twitter handle Shaggy Von Doom.
All right.
That's where you can find me. That's what I'm known for, I guess.
All right. So before we get into the hockey talk, we'll kind of bring up some entertainment talk. And we're both Star Wars guys. We did a show a couple weeks ago now. You came onto the Avalanche show, and we ranked the Star Wars movies. And then we cast Colorado Avalanche players in those starring roles, like who would play Han Solo, who would play Vader, who would play Luke, stuff like that, as Colorado Avalanche players. So that's just to let everybody know that we're into the Star Wars world. So that segues into Mandalorian, and we are on kind of polar opposites of where the Mandalorian sits right now. I am in the minority of people who are just not liking the Mandalorian. I also want to preface, like, I am not the Star Wars like hater boy. Like, this is the first thing Star Wars has come out with that I don't hate it. I just don't like it. I just don't think it's not holding my interest. It's just we'll get into it, but you are on the other side where you're enjoying it. You're enjoying every episode, and you're liking what this show has to offer.
And you were a big defender of the sequels that we just got, and how I was counter to that, where I was not a big fan, like you, not saying I hated it,
but
I didn't enjoy it. And now on Mandalorian, we have now flipped our stances, and you're not enjoying it, but I'm enjoying every little Dave Filoni reference that I could just pick out
See,
of everything. I'm loving it.
and that's that, like, and I also want to say, like, yeah, like I'm a defender of the Disney trilogy, like, but not like, I don't think they're like amazing with the exception of Last Jedi. I think Last Jedi is a phenomenal movie and a great Star Wars movie. And that is in the minority of Star Wars people. Think like the thinking of Star Wars fans is they generally don't like that. I can't for the life of me figure out how Star Wars fans can hate The Last Jedi as much as they do and just flaunt over The Mandalorian. Nothing, with the exception of this very last episode, when I guess, are we just going to be a spoiler thing? Like, whatever. Should we
it's going to
spoil things?
happen. It's going to happen.
So, like, and maybe I'll try not to, but with this last episode that just happened this past Friday, like, I'm like, we didn't need to take this long to get here. And most of this show, in my opinion, has been so much filler. And I was talking to one of my other friends about it, and I'm like, dude, the show is a constant quid pro quo. It is constantly, he needs to go somewhere, and someone's like, oh, I'll tell you how to do that, but you got to help me first. And it's like, again, like, it's just do for me and I'll do for you, over and over and over again. And he gets a little bit further and a little bit further. And it's, episodes are varying in minutes, but like, if it's like a 50-minute episode, it's 47 minutes of him helping somebody and then 3 minutes of this is where you got to go next. But finally, in this last episode, now there's some like peril involved, and now like he's not in front of everything. Now he's chasing. You know what I mean? Like, and now it's starting. That last episode got me very interested. But what you said, like all these like Dave Filoni references and stuff like that, like those are cool for me for like a minute, and I'm over it. Like, yeah, I did want to see Ahsoka in person and who's playing, and that was cool. But she would never just let a baby Yoda go with the Mandalorian that she just met. Never. It wouldn't happen. And if where he's going is someplace like sacred to the Jedi, she would take him there. I just thought that was awful. Just so bad. But she's live action, so people love it. Go ahead.
My counterpunch to your complaint on Mandalorian, how it's going so far, you got to take us one step back and think he's a Mandalorian. He's spent his life task oriented. Like, okay, that's what he does. Like, it's go here, complete this, come back, get paid, and that's how he makes his life.
Okay.
So, this is what he's doing. Each episode is, in his mind, he's completing a task. And yeah, he's got to take care. Even from all the way back to season 1, he's got to take care of this child.
Right.
And he's taking care of the child and trying to figure out things about this child. And in order to do that, he's completing this long-term mission. And he's going here, getting the information, helping this person out, which will also aid his long-term plan.
Mm-hmm.
And each episode is how he's building on it. I think the little Easter eggs are, to spice it up a little bit, give it some, hey, here's some Star Wars fan food.
Sure, which is fine.
And that's why it feels so long and drawn out, because in the movies, what we're accustomed to, you have all these different storylines intersecting,
right?
And all this different, this is a just one person's story, and you're following. So it's a little bit of a pace adjustment. And I think I've been saying this for a while now, but I think Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, is evil.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I heard that getting thrown around a little bit.
I think that's why Ahsoka was very hands off.
Grogu. But
she was right there with Anakin, and she saw where that led. So I don't think she wanted to go through that again.
But then why would she give it up? Why wouldn't she just say, because it doesn't really seem like the Mandalorian wants to keep him around. Like if the Mandalorian can offload him, he will to the right person, and Ahsoka to him was that right person. So
that's all he's thinking is get it
right,
to the Jedi so they could take care of him. So once he gets it somewhere that they could take care of him, he's
right.
gone.
So why doesn't if Ahsoka's thinking that, why doesn't she say like, just tell him like, oh yeah, I'll take him. Just keep it inside, like I can't train this kid, but still take him and then just off him off screen. Done.
No, see,
Mandalorian's over.
Ahsoka's like, take him to the temple. So he, in his mind, he's like, oh, this person that should be trusted says take him here. So this is probably the best option.
Right.
So, like I said, he's very just task driven.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
He's weighing it that way. So
okay.
Ahsoka says go. He's like, fine, this will be the safe place for the child, so I can go back and do what I got to do.
All right. And the last episode, by far the best episode of this season, because it's focusing on them. You know what I mean? Yeah. You bring back a classic character who went on a pretty awesome stormtrooper crushing rampage, which was awesome.
In a non-conventional Star Wars way.
Yeah. So now but I think there's only 2 more episodes left in this season. So we'll see where this goes. But what you said is kind of what I was wanting, kind of I mean, you're naming it The Mandalorian, so it's going to be about this guy, but Star Wars is so vast, to have like this singularity thing just focused on the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda and stuff like that, to be focused so much on him, and he's so dry. He's so monotone. It's just like, that's a tough sell week after week to watch that.
I think you would have a different tune if you could see his face, if you could see expressions in his face, because if you're just going off a voice and a helmet,
right,
it makes it feel very dry.
And they crush that. And they crush that by saying like, you can't take your mask off. It's not the Mandalorian way. It's like, no, like if you lightened up the rules a little bit where you can see his face every once in a while and he just puts it on during battle, I think everybody would be okay with that. But I think it goes to his character of like, no, he's very set in how he's supposed to do things.
And he's almost taking a Kimmy Schmidt kind of approach where he's now getting out there and he's realizing maybe my way of Mandalorian's a little weird and not what it should be.
Okay, yeah, that's true. He was stuck in a bunker for so many years and the world was going on outside.
And all he knew was that one race of Mandalorian, and everybody else that he encounters with the armor doesn't feel that way and will take the helmet off gladly, and it throws him off and he's adjusting.
I mean, I still have hope for it. I'm still going to watch every single episode because number one, it's Star Wars. Filoni's attached to it, obviously. Jon Favreau's attached to it, obviously. So yeah, I mean, a lot of shows have bad seasons. It happens all the time.
Breaking Bad,
except Breaking Bad. Yeah, you're very right with that. But for me, this is just not a good season. And season 1 was good. It was good. Yeah. I enjoyed it. But I don't know. I'm not giving up on it. But I think it's with that last episode, it's trending in the direction of, okay, this could have a good ending, and let's see where the season 3 goes.
And it's good old school weekly enjoyment. Like, maybe about an hour, you watch it and you're like, well, that was, even if you don't like it, like the second episode of this season, where they had all the spiders and stuff. I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
I was just like, okay, well, that was fun. And then you go on about your life.
But the thing that kills me is just the gushing over it that people are going gaga over this thing. And I'm like, we
did the same thing for Jar Jar Binks before the movie came out. So Star Wars fandom is a little.
So you're saying like, give it time and then people will hate it? Because that's what they
give it time. Just let it play out. Let them cross a line somewhere.
All right. Well, we'll see. And then we'll do another update on this next week when we get the next chapter and see where we are there. But one more thing in the entertainment world, and this was earlier in the week, last week, when Warner Brothers said that they are going to release all of their movies in 2021. The day that they are scheduled to be released in theaters, they are also going to release it on HBO Max. Huge boon for HBO Max, because people are going to start subscribing to that, and for a number of reasons. They don't, they don't have to go to a movie theater. They don't have to risk coronavirus. Who knows where we're going to be with this thing as the next year goes on. And it's cheaper.
Yeah.
You get, what's HBO Max, $14.99, I think, a month. I think it's $14.99 a month. And that is the cost of, depending on where you live, a movie ticket. Maybe it's a couple dollars more than a movie ticket, but you're going to get all these movies. So number one, we'll go over the movies in a second, but what's your overall take on this, and not only what it means for HBO Max, just for the movie industry?
That I was just about to say this is the first domino to where streaming is about to go in 2021, because Hulu and Netflix, with this, they're going to have to latch on to a studio somewhere. I mean,
well,
Disney Plus tried putting out, like we were talking before we hit the record button, Mulan. They tried that, but the $30 when it came out. And I know Amazon did that with the Scooby-Doo movie and like Trolls, and you had to buy those when it came out.
Yeah.
But now HBO Max is including new movie releases same day on HBO Max. Hulu and Netflix is starting to dwindle a little bit. It's not my favorite right now out of all the streaming apps.
No.
They're going to have to latch onto a studio.
Well,
I mean, because HBO Max, you could get all your Harry Potters on there too. So when you're talking about, it's about the same price as a ticket. You can't go to a theater and then put in the next one for that same price. Like you get done watching Wonder Woman 84, then you can go watch Justice League or Harry Potter or I mean, there's a lot more bang for your buck with HBO Max than
what Netflix does is, you're saying how if they latch on with a studio. I mean, Netflix is basically their own studio, and but people see them as a streaming service. And they've done things where they will put out a movie. See, HBO buys movies at like the Sundance Film Festival, which should go to movie theaters. They buy it and just put it on Netflix because they know they'll get as many people to watch that on Netflix. And they in a sense, they prevent it from getting to the movie theater. So this might, I mean, for them, they kind of have to go the opposite of what Warner's doing. They would have to buy these movies whoever they're buying them off of, and say, okay, in addition to us putting them in Netflix, we're also going to put them in the movie theater. That goes against who they are. And they've done it. They have done it where a movie will go into movie theaters, but it's also on Netflix either right away or shortly thereafter. The Irishman was one of them. The Irishman was in movie theaters for 3 weeks before it hit Netflix. So that was probably something that Scorsese set up where he's like, no, I want this to be in movie theaters. Theater people hated it. The owners of movie theaters hated that because it's a 3.5-hour movie. So it cut down on the overall amount of times they could show it per day, as opposed to like an 1.5-hour movie or an 1 hour and 45-minute movie. Yeah. So every 2 of those movies, you're only getting 1 viewing of The Irishman. So it was just for those people, they felt like it was a disaster. Netflix doesn't care. And so do they have to change anything? It'll be interesting. I mean, they could latch on with a studio and say like, hey, like we don't do it this way, but we're open to it. Let's do it.
And it's a weird timing that HBO Max announced this right at the time that people are they're reminded. I mean, this was announced in January, but that was 3 years ago at this point.
Right.
Cheers and The Office and Friends are all leaving Netflix. They're going to Peacock. So a lot of everybody's binge shows that are always on Netflix and people are doing housework, those are going away.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, Friends went to HBO Max.
Yeah.
South Park went to HBO Max. Doctor Who, HBO Max. They're all, I mean, Netflix is still the big guy in town, but the other ones are getting gritty. They're pulling their own weight for sure.
And Hulu is putting out like your network television shows where you can get it there.
Yeah.
Which is what I use that for, like watching Shark Tank and stuff.
Sure.
Like.
Yeah. So we'll go through some of these movies. And there's one that absolutely stands out for me, which I can't wait. I gotta wait
Tom and Jerry.
Yes. Good old Tom and Jerry, who I loved as a kid. So I'll just fly some of these. I don't know. The Little Things. It seems like it's with Denzel, I believe. Yep, Denzel Washington. There's your Tom and Jerry. That's in March. The Many Saints of Newark. That's in March. Reminiscence. Looks like Hugh Jackman's in that movie. Godzilla vs. Kong. Looks like Godzilla and Kong are in that movie. That's in May.
Two good actors.
Another Conjuring movie, which is in June. In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a play, which he's making into a movie. So, that's got name recognition right there. The new Space Jam.
Yep.
Okay. Suicide Squad. You're going to be up for that one.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%.
October 1 is the day I have circled, man. Dune.
Oh, yeah.
I am a Dune fanatic. Well, you know what? We're probably going to do some shows on this down the road because it's like almost the unfilmable book, and it seems like it's in the right people's hands, and that is just going to be absolutely insane. I want to go see that in movie theater still, though. So we will see how things are in October. If it's safe, I still think I'm going to the movie theater to see that one.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those that you want to see in movie theaters.
Yes.
And I think what do I know? We've been saying I think we'll be all right in.
No, we don't know. No clue.
October 21, possibly. Sure.
Yeah. We'll see. King Richard in November. It's a Will Smith movie.
Tom Hanks's Elvis on November 5th.
Where's that one? I don't have that on here. Tom Hanks's Elvis?
Yeah, Elvis. It's Elvis biopic about the king. Tells the story of Elvis Presley. Oh, he's played by Butler. Tom Hanks co-stars as Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker.
Wow. Okay, I didn't even know he was doing that.
Leo. Oh, no, that's the last appearance
Anyway.
Okay. Elvis movie with Tom Hanks as a co-star. Run, Don't Walk.
Okay. All right. Right around this time, well, a couple weeks in a year, December 22nd, The Matrix 4. That's huge, man. That's
another theater movie.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But just the fact that that's going to be on HBO Max the day it comes out,
that's crazy.
Is massive. Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't know much about that. Mortal Kombat. I didn't even know there was another Mortal Kombat movie coming out.
I can't wait.
Yeah, see, I'm not into those, man. I just think I don't know. It might be good.
I need that.
One called Those Who Wish Me Dead. I don't know anything about that, but it stars John Berthal, who's the Punisher, so that could be cool. Malignant, which looks like it's another Conjuring movie, I guess. Something to that effect. Looks a little creepy. I don't know.
Yeah, looks creepy. Director of the first Saw.
Yeah, so that could be good. Cry Macho, Clint Eastwood movie. That's all I got. I don't know if you have any more that I missed, but I mean, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a wild.
I mean, if that released right there as its own app for $15.99.
Yeah, right. I mean, just for those movies.
Just for those movies, people will be like, yeah, sure, let's go.
Definitely.
Like Crackle back in the day.
Crackle's still around, man.
They're. I check on them every now and then.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow.
Don't sleep on Crackle. So, all right. We'll see where we're at next week with some entertainment news, mainly The Mandalorian. But let's jump into some hockey stuff because we did get some news about the season, what it could look like. I went from before the pause going into the when they figured it out, doing the bubbles, Edmonton, Toronto, went swimmingly. Coming out of that, I was like, we're full steam. Like, we'll figure it out. The NHL and the players, they will figure it out. And I felt that way really up until last week when it seemed like the owners were getting a little bit greedy. Didn't seem like they were.
Not the NHL owners. No,
they were. And then I was like, oh man, maybe like this isn't going to happen because the dreaded lockout word was getting thrown around. And I wasn't going down that road yet, but I was like, maybe it might not happen or it might get pushed back even further. And then that seemed to be short-lived because now it seems like we're back to mid-January start time, mid 50, 52 to 56 game season, which would be a good chunk of a season. And then, your playoffs and stuff like that. So that seems to be where we're at now. Is that, do you think that seems like we're going to be going? Are you okay with that? And then I also have to give you credit because you had predicted kind of this stuff when I was, waxing poetic, like everything was going to be sunshine and rainbows. You were like, no, like, hold up. So I give you credit for that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I've been scarred by the lockouts before, and
yeah,
I know everybody remembers that when we got off the ground on our return to play to get us in the bubble, everybody was parading around, hey, look, the NHL and the players union just struck this new deal. We got harmony for 4 more years, which is
right,
great and everything. But
right.
when they said, hey, take a little pay cut, we'll just get to playing, finish this season, and we'll address it next year. Well, we're coming up on what should be next year. Still no fans.
Yeah.
And you still have minor league teams that you got to take care of. You got to take care of the arena. I mean, that was the big news, right? March of last year was the COVID shutdown. How are they going to take care of the in-arena personnel, the vendors, stuff of that nature? Well, you can't just fire that up again like nothing ever happened.
Right.
And then there's a lot of things that haven't been addressed. And the NHL on their side, they're in a sticky situation because they got to try and make the league operate up against a window when their deal with NBC, the Olympics, they got to try and squeeze their season. There's not a lot of room. That's why they're not saying, well, maybe February, maybe mid-February, March. They know if we don't get started early January, if something happens like we see in the NFL, NBA, baseball, a little COVID outbreak, how they have a 50 game schedule now, you can't take 2 weeks off. You
No.
can't quarantine your team and then make up. You don't have a back end of the season to make up dates. Like their perfect world is putting them right up against the Olympics. And if they don't finish before the Olympics, they're not going to get that TV time where they make their money.
Right. And the interesting thing here is one thing that I read was they want to, and they probably will, have kind of like a buffer period between the end of the season and the Olympics of a week or two to play games that they are going to anticipate having to cancel because of somebody testing positive for COVID. So if you have a game that's in March and you have to cancel it because somebody on either team tested positive, that will get thrown at the end of the season in this little buffer period so they can get that game in. It's still going to go up really close to maybe I'm lying because that would have to be after the regular season, clearly. So yeah, there's going to be a buffer between the regular season and the playoffs then is what I'm getting at here. Okay. So then yeah, the playoffs will end right up until Olympics.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. The other issue is this Canadian division. Like it's the Toronto Raptors are coming into, I think they're playing in Tampa.
Yeah,
For their entire season. I don't really follow the NBA that much, but like they had in an article I read about the NHL, they had mentioned Toronto, and said like that's all the NBA has to worry about is Toronto. There's 7 teams in the NHL that they have to worry about, and it from all like signs are pointing to the government's not granting special privilege to NHL for the Canadian teams coming into the United States and vice versa. What do you do for the playoffs?
Well, even this, like, where the 49ers have to finish their season in Arizona.
That's the other issue they're talking about, right?
And you have what, 3-4 teams in California now?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't keep collapsing into the good states that are at least like Montana, where you can be distanced because just this is how it is. But Like so many things of this hypothetical season and how they are drawing everything up. Even their backup plan is if they have one outbreak. That's not how this works. Like the margins are so thin, and what it's coming to now, the owners are just like, this is too much of a headache. They can do this, by the way. They can lock the season out no matter what they just signed between the labor union. They could just pull out and say, hey, we'll come back in October. We'll be back on track because the season usually starts in October.
Right.
We'll just pretend this didn't happen. Vaccines and everything will be ready by October. We'll start up then. Like we are teetering on that line.
It's still, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like when I said, like, I've kind of shifted back towards, okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable about it. That doesn't mean I'm just fully back on to the track of everything will be fine. Like there's still a lot that needs to get ironed out. And those are one, like, yeah, you have to worry about your Canadian teams with the United States and going back and forth, but you still have to worry about your United States teams. And you nailed it with California. They got a lot of teams in California, and they're, not even playing right now, and they're already feeling like a crunch to see what the 49ers have to go through. And like I've said on the Avalanche show, like, it's not a matter of when will a player on an NHL team test positive, or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So they're talking about that stuff. They know that they hit a home run with the playoffs and didn't have a single test that went positive. They know that's not going to happen. So they're not going in blind and just saying like, oh, we can just, do what we did last time and everything will be fine, but we can just do it on a bigger scale. Like, nope, you can't. You can't have, you can't, and you can't do it the way you did it in playoffs either. You can't have bubble cities, because that's a lot to ask for a lot of people to be away from their families for that long of a time frame. It's not going to happen. So I don't know what they do. I think they do like maybe multiple bubble cities or something. And like they said before, you go to a city and you're there, you're there for 2 weeks, hammer out a bunch of games in 2 weeks, and then you have a few days off, get tested, then you go to another bubble city. I don't know, man.
And like, what do you do? What teams can operate without fans? Like we talked during the playoffs, Arizona was having problems making payroll. Like, what do teams like Columbus and Florida and teams that are already having problems and relocating was like a little whisper at the time? What do you do if you try and start the league? You're going to start bankrupting teams where everything does go back to normal, and then teams will have to move. And then I don't, like, I know you feel cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
But I really don't see this happening.
Really?
Like, ironically enough, like here in Alabama, our hockey league starts December 26th.
Okay.
It's like we had a 10-team league, 5 teams decided it wasn't like financially and health reasons they weren't going to compete this year. They're going to come back next season. But Birmingham's going to play like 25% capacity. The 26th, they'll start. And we'll have hockey before the NHL. And I think they're just going to pull the plug, say it's going to be safer and better for our bottom line if we just start again in October.
You think it'd be better for the bottom line if they have no season than some sort of season at all, where they can then maybe make some? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they would lose if there was no season whatsoever. I mean, if you lock them out, are you therefore not paying those guys? Like, you're not paying them, right? So maybe then that's where they are saving their money.
Yeah, and you're not incurring like travel costs and then hotels and COVID tests and potential injuries. I mean, right now everybody's theoretically perfectly healthy roster. Like, this is the best it's going to get.
Yeah.
So no better time than now. Like, take a little loss or take a huge loss and possibly rack up with some injuries and then be forced to shut down later on down the road, not even finish the season at all. Like, honestly, how long are we going to chase our tail when it comes to scheduling? Like, let's say we got this, okay, everything's fine. We're going to do our 50-game season. We end around July.
Yeah.
So we're going to start back up in October. So we're back on track with the schedule. And then we're going to talk about
Right.
a short break there.
Yeah, because they can't. I mean, how they did it this year was, I think it was like October 3rd or something like that was the absolute end. Like we cannot play a game past that date. I'm sure they're doing the same thing with this. And what's after that date is the Olympics, so you have to take that into account. But it just seems like there's very little wiggle room for a season that's going to need some wiggle room.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Like it's not going to be like, the vaccine and stuff should help. I think that'll help with hopefully getting butts in the seats at some point. It's not going to happen, and just say we start January 15th. Fans aren't going to be in the arenas January 15th. Probably won't see fans for probably 2 months. Probably like March, mid to end March is when you'll start seeing a little bit of fans. And some teams were even throwing around the idea of doing outdoor games. I know Pittsburgh was one of them. I think there was like 4 teams on the. I saw a list. I know Pittsburgh was on there. I don't see. You can't do that. You can't have your games exclusively be outdoors. That's just way too taxing on an ice team to have outdoor ice be ready day in and day out. It's just with the way the weather is and stuff like that. It'd probably be a logistical nightmare,
especially for your defending Stanley Cup champions in Tampa Bay, Florida. Like, it's going to be really hard to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We'll see, man. I mean, we're almost a month away from when they're saying that they're going to want to start. So I'm sure this week will bring some kind of new news to this, but
we were saying the same last week and the week before. Like each week is like this is a critical week, and I'm honestly starting to get a little worried, and there's a lot of little cracks in this that could affect how the next season will go. So if we're going to shut down, we need to do it now and close everything down nice and neat.
But what they can't do is, a Big Ten debacle. And well, we're not going to play. And then like, wow, look at everybody else. Everybody else is doing okay. Let's play again. And now like Michigan had a bunch of
and you wonder if as you're mentioning that we did it, the playoffs, we handled it great. We did the entire playoffs in 2 bubbles, no positive tests.
Yeah.
It went fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, how bad would it be to go from the best to the worst in how we handle COVID cases?
Right.
Because,
yeah, you don't want that.
I mean, I really feel like that's also playing a factor in how we're coming back, because I mean, it's the first thing the NHL is being touted about in a long time in the sports world. And the MLB was, the way they handled it was the joke.
Yeah.
We don't want to come back and then take that from the MLB.
No.
So
let them keep that title. We don't want
it. We don't need it.
We don't want it. All right. We'll see. Everybody was kind of excited, us included, about the reverse retro uniforms that came out. Overwhelmingly positive response from those, with the exception of the Islanders. And one question we had was, okay, like we got the jersey. We didn't get anything else, and we're talking Avalanche now. Like we didn't get, the gloves, the helmet, pants. We didn't get any of that stuff, but we got, and again, in Avalanche world, we got like, we are going to be fine tuning the regular uniforms. And the word on the street was, the Avalanche always wore black pants. It was seeming like they were going to get away from that. Other teams, and I, talked to a lot of people in the hockey world, like they were thinking the same thing with their team. Like, we got the jersey, awesome, but the next step is like, we really want to see the full thing in detail. What matches with what color are the gloves? Just seemed to be like the next step in this process of getting the full-fledged uniform. And it seems like we got the answer to all of that through a video game. in EA NHL. And I don't know if that was planned or not, because the and again, in Avalanche world, the Avalanche haven't come out and said this is them. So we have it all. Like they put in what we thought it would be was exactly what it is. But there's kind of spoiling for every team out there. It's not just Colorado.
I feel like EA Sports jumped the gun on this one a little bit. I
How
feel
did
like
they mess that up?
I feel like they had this update for a while, and they're like, "Okay, well, we'll let you know." It was probably going to be one of those right before Christmas. Everybody gets their EA Sports NHL 21 for Christmas, and
Right.
you got reverse retros in there with all the jersey combinations. You talk about it at Christmas, and EA Sports saw the buzz that the retro jerseys were getting, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get on this now," and jumped the gun. And all the NHL teams' social accounts are like, "Oh no!"
Because like I even put up there, like when they announced the Avs jersey, I tagged the Avalanche Twitter page. I'm like, what do the gloves look like? And they responded and they were like, today is just for the jersey. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be that guy. I love the jersey. I appreciate it. I appreciate the jersey. Let's let that settle for a little while. But the Avalanche Twitter page, and most of these teams' Twitter pages are pretty active.
Yeah.
They would have posted something. They would have said,
I mean, especially in this time of nothing, they're wanting anything to put on their socials.
Well, and the response that was had by all these things, by all these jerseys, yeah, they would put it out there knowing that it's going to, have a lot of people following it and really wanting to know what it is. But has EA really, they haven't pulled back or anything, have they?
I don't think so.
No?
I haven't seen anybody complaining about it being pulled down.
It just seemed like it's out there. It just seems like it's out there. Nobody's doing anything about it.
I sadly don't have 21 yet. I still have 20, so
Okay.
I'm living vicariously through everybody's hashtags.
Are we doing that today, by the way? I completely forgot about that.
Give me a second.
We don't have to do it right now.
I can get it going.
No, all right. Well, because what we're going to do is at the end of every episode, Kyle's going to run the simulator on, and you have NHL 20.
I do.
And just see. That's all right. Christmas is right around the corner.
Matt Nieto, anybody?
Don't get hurt and bring in like Kamenev or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
So he's gonna run the simulator, run a full season, and we're gonna get we're gonna crown a champion at the end of every single episode, and we'll keep tabs on who is who until he gets 21. And I could get it too, but I just don't have time to play video games right now. So we'll keep track of that. You don't have to run it yet. We got a little bit of time. Or actually, how long does it take you? Like 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, gotta pull it up on the.
All right.
Load it up.
Yeah, you can run it whenever. So yeah, that's the deal on the uniforms. So we'll see. I think it is what it is. I don't think there's anything that teams are going to come out with that are going to be so different than what NHL 21 put out. But whatever, it's almost like Endgame. Remember when they spoiled the title of Endgame?
Yeah.
And then when you saw the first trailer, it was like Avengers Endgame. You're like, oh, but we knew that, and it's still cool.
I mean, and what do the team's socials do at this point? Like, do they say, well, that's not it, and then actually be it? Or do they say, well, we missed that one? I mean, they're just remaining quiet. Just y'all figure it out.
Right.
Right. They'll take the time off.
And finally, the last topic we're going to talk about is getting some hockey in the form of the World Juniors. God, I love the juniors tournament. It's fantastic. And they had, at least the Canadian team had a COVID scare. A couple staff members, a couple players tested positive. I think it's because of that and because of, just the way things are. A handful of guys said they are not going to play, or I should say their team said, you're not going. Big names. Alex Lafreniere is not going to go. Rangers said nope. Capo Caco, another Ranger, not going to go. Hughes from the Devils is not going to go. But a couple guys, I know Marco Rossi from the Wild is going to go. And Kirby Dach is still going. which, you know, he had a full season in the pros last year. So
A good season too.
really good.
Really good
He
season.
is going to be a solid hockey player for a long time. So it kind of is going both ways. You see a guy like Kirby Doc that's going, and who spent an entire season in the NHL, and then you have, you know, someone like Alex Lafreniere who hasn't, but you know, he's a number one pick. And I think the Rangers are like, we are not risking. I think it's more coronavirus than regular injury than anything. You know what I mean? Like,
I honestly, as it's kind of a combo of both, honestly. And the Rangers are on a different level than Minnesota and Chicago at this point. They're
oh
teams that
yeah,
are
sure,
openly,
yeah,
they're saying we're in an open rebuild. Like
right,
that's exactly what's going on. And the other teams that are still in contention, they're like,
yep,
hey, stay with us for a little bit. You can learn more here. The teams
right,
that are rebuild, they're like, go play. We're not going to be good for a while. You can come back whenever. I mean, if Bettman says, yeah, we're starting January 1st,
yeah,
like you need to be here now.
yeah, right.
I mean, that's 2 week quarantine and like the Rangers. I think it's smart to keep Lafreniere here. Kirby Doc and Rossi, they can go play because Minnesota and Chicago are not going to be anything for a while.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing into this thing, you know, you're risking injury.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess for like, maybe there's some truth to that. Like with Rossi and Doc, they're like, yeah, you know, who knows when we're going to be able to play. So go ahead and have at it. Where Lafreniere, I think the Rangers are thinking like, you know, even if we don't have a season, or we don't even start until, let's say, the worst case scenario, you start sometime in February, we're still okay with you not risking anything playing
Yeah.
in the juniors. We'd rather you kind of take your licks in the NHL whenever that time may come than, you know, just getting some skating time in the juniors. We'd rather you not do that. And I get it.
And didn't he play in the juniors last year?
Yeah. I'm almost positive he did.
It's not the Rangers aren't really robbing
It's
him of a
not.
moment.
No, it's not that he's, you know, he would run over people there. For him, it's just keeping him fresh. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
doesn't need the competition. He doesn't need it. Doc doesn't
I
need it.
wonder if it's one of those. I wonder if we ask him right now what he would say.
If he wants to do it or not.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, does it bother you that you're not getting to play?
I bet it does, because a lot of these guys is playing for their country. You know what I mean? That
True.
it's more than just playing hockey. He would tell you that it would, you know, I want to represent my country over the just getting some ice time. You know what I mean? It's
And then he
for
looks at his
them.
bank account and he's like, ah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I get it. You know, you play in that market in New York. Um, you're already got, you know, you got cinder blocks on your back already. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm sure names will come out. You know, we're following in our abs. I haven't heard about if Bowen Byram. I mean, Bowen Byram has looked absolutely incredible
Yeah.
at this thing in the scrimmages that they're playing against each other. He's ready to go. He could be one of those guys where it's like, if the Avalanche pull him out of there, it's not because they're afraid of like injury. I mean, every team I think is equally afraid of injury. It would just be he doesn't need it, and he wasn't on that team last year. So maybe getting him to play for his country is something that they want him to experience. Same thing with Newhook, who was cut from it last year. I don't know. I think we're going to see, because that's coming up. That's in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I think I think their roster decision for Team Canada anyway is this week sometime. I don't know the exact date.
And I would
So
see Sakic letting them go play because it's not like how we're kind of different from the Rangers right now. Well, I'm saying we as the Avalanche.
yeah.
The Avs really don't have that room on the roster right
Oh,
now.
for their juniors?
Yeah.
No.
So it's not like
Right.
Lafreniere, he needs to be there. If
Yeah.
everything's good, he needs to be in New York. I mean, we love them to death, but we don't need you. Go have fun.
Exactly. Right.
Do what you got to do. But
which is why it surprises me that Doc is on there. I can't for the life of me understand why he's gonna play in this thing. I don't know, but
I mean, Chicago's they're
yeah. I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, that about does it for this week. One more piece of business to do and get to. Is the simulation complete?
We are in the playoffs, about to go through the second round.
All right. So while that takes place, you can follow this show. We are on Twitter. I haven't set up an Instagram page yet, so I still have to do that. But you can definitely follow on Twitter. And I had to change our Twitter handle because it was too long or something. I can't remember what it was, but we're at 4th minutes over on Twitter. So definitely follow over there. And you're watching this through YouTube, so subscribe to the. I've never had to say this before. What do you say in YouTube world? Subscribe,
smash that like button,
hit the bell or something like that. I don't know, like we're in a boxing match. Like,
hit that bell, like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, whatever. Do whatever you got to do in YouTube. I don't know. You're watching, so if you want to watch more of it,
we got to put
PS5 how to do it.
Xbox in the handle.
Don't you think at this point, like? You know how people like we've had answering machines or voicemails forever, but people still say, "Hey, this is so and so. I'm not here. Leave a message after so and so." Like, you know what to do when somebody doesn't answer the phone and you got to leave a message. People have been watching YouTube long enough. You know what to do if you want to see this every week. Whatever you got to do, just do it. Hit subscribe or like or whatever the hell you have to do.
Send your TikToks and your.
Is Vine still a thing?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know, dude. I'm 40 in like 3 months, so whatever. Do we have a winner yet, or are we?
Ironically enough,
oh god,
you're Stanley Cup champions.
Is it the first episode? Are we starting off on
first
a good
episode?
Are we start?
Colorado Avalanche, baby. We beat the Lightning.
We beat the Lightning. Oh, I gotta tell Adam about that.
7 games.
7-game series. Does it give like stats, like who, like MVPs and all that stuff, or no?
Let's see. I don't know. We beat them in Game 7, 4-2.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep track. Wow, that was not like
I did it. I told you I did a sample run of this, and we didn't even make the playoffs when I did the.
That's right. Arizona won, right?
Yeah, Arizona won.
Yes.
So.
All right, 1 for 1.
One for one.
And when I was like pitching the show to you, I'm like, dude, like I don't want this to be just like Avalanche overload. We're gonna talk about the Avalanche.
We failed,
but 1 week down and
can't hide my colors. I'm sorry.
No. So.
My background is literally jerseys.
That's too funny. Let's do it. So, all right, we'll see if we can have a back-to-back championships next week.
Absolutely, we gotta defend.
So yeah, that'll be it for today, everybody. Follow the show wherever you're on social media. I'll get the Instagram thing up and running and tweet that out. So that'll be it. Any last words from Mr. Von Doom?
We're the Stanley Cup champions, so if you have a problem with that, sorry, it's real.
It's
a simulation.
It happened. So all right, guys. Thank you for watching, tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Yeah.